What's up, fellow gamers? Phreak here. I'm the design lead of 7 Team's live pod, here to talk about patch 14.1. It's a big patch. There's a lot going into it. Let's talk about some of it. But first, we're going to talk about the fact that, yes, it is season start. The seasonal pod has put out has put in a ton of work over the last several months. It is going live next week. The season's going to start. Y'all can start your climbs. Good luck. Very excited. I think it's going to be really a bunch of cool stuff there. That's the preamble. Let's move forward. Let's talk about how the last patch went. I know we're bearing the lead a little bit here. Corki was buffed in the 24B micro patch. If you are building him properly, he's looking to be about a 51% win rate mid laner right now, which is probably fairly high, but for now it's okay. He's still the second least picked champion in the game, unfortunately. He's up to about 48% win rate in bot lane. I personally believe that it is probably correct to let Corki be a good bot laner again and try to get his pick rate up from there. But ultimately, it seems that players aren't terribly interested in playing a relatively strong Corki in mid lane. So probably find a better audience putting him down to the bot lane and letting you say, hey, here's a magic damage option if your team comp sucks and whatever else. Probably someone will go. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case, but it is something that I am considering chasing down. Won't be in point 2, at earliest it's point 3. They'll probably be busy with seasonal update stuff, but regardless, the buffs landed pretty well. It's moderate amount of power, about 1% or so win rate, but you know, Corki's reasonable. People have moved on to building Triforce first. People are actually now selecting into his proper builds. They're going away from AP. They're going away from Manamune first item. Triforce seems pretty good on him. But ultimately, yeah, got a ways to go still in this champion. He's not terribly popular. It is what it is. I think some of that is just always going to happen. Regardless, I think we can do a little bit more work on him to make him more interesting. Hwei got some pretty big buffs in the micro patch as well. He's sitting at around 46% win rate if you track day by day. He's up to around 46% now. I expect it to be around like 46.5 by the time point 1 hits. Ultimately, we'll talk about this later because he's actually in this patch. Hwei, of course, still observes a pretty low win rate. That said, his mastery curve is one of the sharpest in the game. Certainly measuring any mastery curve statistically in the modern day is going to be filled with biases. For example, right, let's say there's another champion who's hard to play as Hwei. Let's call him Azir. And you know, if you want to play Azir for the first time, you have a lot of footage of how this champion is played, what the play's supposed to look like, what your build's supposed to look like, what your rune's supposed to be, all that kind of stuff. And so you can come in, and even if he's hard to play, you at least have some understanding of what this champion's supposed to do, how you're supposed to play it. Hwei doesn't have that, and so anyone's first game on him is going to have even less prior knowledge than your first game on Yone, or your first game on Zed, or your first game on Katarina, or your first game on anyone else. So with that bias rolled in and being like used in this calculation, so you know, not ignored, not compensated for, he's top 10% hardest to play champions. Now, in 3 years, will he still be top 10%? I would guess probably still top third, top quarter. So he is a pretty high mastery champion. But for example, Briar, who's been out for a lot longer, actually observes a steeper mastery curve than Hwei does. Though Briar is, I think, going to probably remain like top 5% in League of Legends for sharpest mastery curves because she plays so uniquely to other champions. That might not end up being actually true, but that's kind of the thought right now. Regardless, kind of some thoughts on Hwei. We can move on to the next one, which is Nefiri. Of course, Nefiri got nerfed back in 23, I think, and then we buffed her back in the micro patch. Back in point 22, she was a 53% win rate mid laner, had a ban rate roughly triple her pick rate, which meant that she sort of appeared frustrating. Ban rate wasn't decaying very quickly. Pick rate was staying pretty flat. The nerf was larger than we wanted. We didn't want to bring it down to 50. We think Nefiri is a totally fine 51, 52 champion. She's meant to be low agency and relatively easy to play. Those kinds of things will tend to allow higher win rates overall per like point of frustration kind of. But you know, over nerfed her, ban rate started decaying. Of course, ban rates always lag, so 6% ban rate on a patch where she was probably like objectively weak, or you know, potentially like subjectively weak, I guess we'll say. But as ban rate has decayed, we buffed her back up to a pretty reasonable spot. 51.6 is what we've measured over the last couple of weeks. That is a totally reasonable resting win rate for Nefiri. We think it's totally fine. And right now the ban rate has continued to fall, and so it's down around like 2.7% or so over the last couple of days. So that'll probably still decay down a little bit lower, getting to the point where her ban rate's going to be probably pretty similar to her pick rate, which is probably a pretty good thing. So that's kind of the hopeful spot for Nefiri. I think this is a pretty good balance state for Nefiri, though. And seeing the ban rate drop 3x for only a 1.4% win rate drop means I think we did some pretty good stuff there, tuning wise, to find this champion in the right spot. We over-nerfed Orianna. She's around 48% now. It's interesting because looking at with hindsight now, Orianna's pick and ban rates were starting to decay even before the micro patch. She was probably still a little bit too strong. I think it was worth nerfing her some, but if we did literally nothing, we would have still seen her pick and ban rate decay some. She may have still been considered the best mid laner if we're looking at like pro play champs queue games. Orianna is like the most contested mid laner, I think, right now. And then Nocturne in jungle, because Ori Nocturne is a combo that people are playing a lot of. But I think even in hindsight, it was worth nerfing Orianna some, but I want to point out that I think this nerf to Orianna was a little bit too sharp. We weren't planning on 2% win rate down. That's what we got. So I would expect if she's not a winner of the seasonal update that we may bring her back up some. Maybe not in 0.2, maybe not in the micro patch or anything, but Orianna is maybe a little bit weak, though I don't think she's like an urgent topic for design work. Just something to bring up that we did slightly overshoot on Orianna here. Silas hits about 50%. Looks pretty good. Nothing much to say here. Pretty happy with how the magnitude landed here. Syndra also did about 50%. Also seems pretty reasonable on the magnitude, so nothing to complain about in this one. Warwick had changes that were meant to buff his jungle. We got his jungle up about 1.5% win rate to 50.5, which is fine. I think Warwick probably could be 51, 52. We could go even harder on making Warwick a good jungler. I do think that the seasonal update will actually help Warwick jungle quite a bit. I think a lot of weak clear single target junglers will be looking a little bit nicer. I'll talk about that later on. But at least Warwick is decent right now. The pick rate spiked a fair bit. His top lane win rate went up very little because, of course, the changes wouldn't do that much to him. His W and Q monster cap and whatnot just aren't going to matter that much for top lane, but it did have a measurable impact in his win rate up there. Just it's pretty slight overall. Would be happy to keep shifting Warwick toward jungle. I think it's actually wise to do so. Regardless, he's in a reasonable spot now, so nothing urgent by any means. And then finally, Yone had a pretty light touch. This didn't affect his pick rate very much. It didn't affect his ban rate all that much. His ban rate has been decaying a little bit by day, but Yone's at around 49 for now. I think that's reasonable. I do want to point out that Yone and Yasuo both are two very high depth champions. Like, they're played very broadly. They're very popular. Many people like playing Yasuo and Yone, but those who play him play a lot of that champion. A comparison champion is Blitzcrank, is a champion who is played very broadly, but you actually don't have that many Blitzcrank mains. You actually tend to play against a Yasuo or Yone main when you play against Yasuo and Yone. I don't have the information right now on exactly how strong of an impact that is win rate wise. I've seen data that indicates that it's really, really a huge impact. I've seen data that indicates it's very, very low impact. I'm not sure what the actual result is, but regardless, we would expect to see at least some nominal win rate increase from being highly mained on champions like Yasuo and Yone. There's also a decent argument to say that a champion like Yone, who has a lot of individual agency, feels fair both to play as and against, and he's just below 50% win rate because you always could have outplayed and done better, and you still could have won if you're just a better player, and so you can just keep improving and you still get there. Both Yone and Yasuo actually have very, very long, almost straight line mastery curves. So even if you're trying to peg yourself at what's 30 games on this champion is 50% win rate. It's well, they actually keep going past 30 games. They go up to 200 games. So there's a lot of discussion here around mastery curves and where wrestling win rate should be. I'm not trying to spend the whole time talking about that here, but just there are various considerations around wrestling win rate does not really mean power here, and that's one of the ways you can consider it is the fact that Yone will continue to gain win rate with mastery, and it's okay to ask that of champions that still have mastery to go at 100 games, 200 games, whatever. Anyway, let's talk about the fact that there are some longer-term products coming out of the live pod. So many of these are going to be coming in 14.2. Just want to give a brief update. There's some changes to a couple of runes. There's actually a change to a rune in 14.1 coming as well from seasonal, replacing the stopwatch rune. But I'm piloting some changes on a couple of stat shards and one minor rune in 14.2 that's testing pretty well. We're trying to get icon art right now. Hopefully it ships in 14.2. We'll see. There's actually a pretty big team-wide QOL sweep going on since there's nothing to balance right now. Since we're waiting for the patch to come out, a lot of us have about a week of just like kind of free time. And so I spent a couple hours today, a couple other people spent a few hours. I'll probably expect to use most of my next week doing the same thing, of updating some functionality and fixing some bugs and whatnot. And so I checked in, I think, 5 champion changes today, and I'm expecting to get another 5 to 10 more over the next couple of days that hopefully is going to be pretty fun and exciting and people should enjoy. So, some amount of power is inevitable here, right? This is going to be pretty much strictly power positive. And they're going to have to switch off this really, really quickly to do balance updates with the seasonal update. That's expected of us, but trying to stay busy, and there should be a decent number of pretty cool things going on. We have a big doc, and we're updating the ticket and whatnot. Additionally, out of live pod, one of the other designers is working on it ends up being a pretty light touch on bounties. The goal here is to make bounties feel less incorrect when your team is behind. And so there's some light touches here around how bounties are accrued and how much gold they award and whatnot based on whether your team is winning or losing. And so this hopefully avoids some of the cases where it's like, oh, the 0-1 Jinx on the losing team has a gold bounty, even though there's like a 2-0 Ari in the other team and the other team's winning in gold, right? So just trying to soften that a little bit. Hopefully it's going to be pretty reasonable. Anyway, let's talk about what LivePod actually has coming into patch 14.1. There are no nerfs. But we are buffing Hui. Here we go. We're 11 minutes in the video. We're finally getting to the first change of the actual patch. We are sending in a buff to the champion Hui. It's a doozy. We're giving him 3 whole armor. As I mentioned, he's sitting at around a 46% observed win rate. I think that is okay-ish. And I want to actually bring up a couple of things here around new champion tuning. So the shot call from Champ's team and gameplay analysis was that he would have I think it was 32 to 36% win rate day 1. They literally shot called this Champ's going to release at 30-something% win rate. If I recall correctly, it's around there. I know it's over the 3. Maybe the upper end was 40%, but again, it was around there. So, as far as people will say, oh, Riot intentionally releases champions overtuned, whatever, I've literally seen the documents. They expected a 3x% win rate, day 1 launch win rate for the champion. Right, that was the tuning times champion mastery times everything that they expect out of the champion, and they were pretty close to right. I think he actually was day 1 30 or 31, which means that they wanted to bring him up around 3 or 4% to get him into the middle of that bracket. But if he was day 135, they'd be like, we expected that, hands off. Now, the secondary consideration to that is, okay, how quickly does he climb? Because no one should expect a day 0 50% win rate. Of course, Melio had that, and we nerfed him right away because obviously Melio was overpowered, and that's fine. Briar, we micropatch nerfed because she had a 32% win rate on day 0. We micropatch buffed her, and then of course we had nerf her over time, but I think it's reasonable to say okay, well, here's what mastery we expect out of the champion, here's the day 1 we expect, and then tuning that in mind, right? Totally fine here. The secondary point here is I do think that long-term, if we were to fast forward 6 months, Hui would probably be considered an overpowered champion. I don't think Hui is weak. I don't think this champion's actually weak. I think people are still learning him. We are still seeing his win rate climb. We're getting, I want to say, around 1% win rate every 1 to 2 weeks, which means if we, fast forward 8 to 10 weeks in the future, we're probably getting pretty close to 50% on this champion. Obviously, it's going to slow down over time. Of course, it's slowing down over time. That's fine. Anyway, what I want to bring up, though, is the fact that people are playing League of Legends today, right? They're playing League of Legends. The ranked season is on. When 14.1 launches, the ranked season is going to be on there as well. And the reason that, and I basically pushed for this change. I'm the one who implemented this change. You can blame me if I was like, put a foot down. No, we're not buffing Hui. I think I have enough authority to be like, no, we really, 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 really shouldn't do this, and people would have listened to me. I was on the fence, or on the side of let's buff Hui, and I was one of multiple people, and we decided to do it. So here's why I believe we should buff Hui, even though he is probably actually a pretty strong champion already. His teammates. The reason is his teammates. I don't think Hui players are like, I can't play Hui, he's a 46% win rate. They're currently still playing Hui. He's actually still relatively popular. He's one of the more played mid laners. Some of this is because he's the new champion, sure, but like, people are going to game 20 on him. He's got, people are getting the champ mastery. People are enjoying playing him. Great. Cool. And it's not really for those players because by like game 22, they'll be at 50% win rate as champion. And that's not like, if you play a lot of League of Legends, you can get there pretty quickly, right? That's like 2 days of playing a lot, and then you're at 20 games, and congratulations, you're 50% win rate as champion. There are some champions who don't get to 50% win rate in 20 games. To be fair, again, Hui doesn't either, but he gets close to it. Regardless, obviously you can make up for whatever his balance state is with champion mastery. With enough games, you're about 50% this champion, no questions asked. So again, the reason for doing this is for his teammates. Hui is a reasonably popular champion, and over the last 2 weeks, he was a 45% win rate champion. Around today, he's like 46, and he'll probably be around 47 when the patch comes out in a week. I don't think his teammates should have to deal with a 47% win rate Hui. I would like them to play with a 48% win rate Hui. And I expect in a month, or maybe even sooner, that we will eventually nerf Hui, and we'll have to make a really strong call around what types of strengths and weaknesses Hui is meant to have. What are his builds supposed to look like? Where is his power budget coming from? And certainly, like, a lot of that happens initially, like the champ designer makes those calls and whatnot. And like there's input from many people and whatnot, but ultimately I will have to be in a spot where, right, once LivePod like fully takes over tuning of this champion, I will need to have a really strong fundamental understanding of like what are the kinds of things this champion should be good and bad at doing, and so I have to like get there. Like I don't have a really, really strong opinion on like damage versus utility versus like selfish versus CC versus team wide versus early and late game utility, and like should he be low elo or high elo skewed, like should he be a pro jail champion like Azir where you can see Faker predict Ruler's flash, and that nope, we will not compromise in this. Like that's how Azir is. Like Azir is always going to be pro jail. It really just means like this champion's super high agency, he's super flashy, and like that's what you sign up for, and it just requires more mastery to get 50% win rate in this champion because Azir is a high mastery champion, and that's just correct for him. That's what his players want. That's what we're going to do for him. We're not going to make him easy. Sure, okay. But, we will compromise of saying, like, he's not supposed to be a great laner. He can be an okay laner. Sure, all fine. I need to, build all the understanding for Hui. Regardless, this is all to say that, yes, what I want for Hui is for his teammates to have a 48% win rate mid laner on season start instead of a 47% win rate mid laner on season start, and acknowledging that I fully expect us to have to nerf Hui at some point. And I think that's fine, because I think we're tuning him for January, we're not tuning him for June. That's actually the line I wrote in the patch notes. You'll see that in text in about a week as well. All right, that's the patch. Thanks for watching, everyone. No, I'm just kidding. So there's one other thing coming out of the live pod into 14.1, and that is a retuning to some jungle damage. So this is meant to be on average power neutral. This is not meant to be a jungle nerf. This is acknowledging the fact that the terrain changes in 14.1 make ganking harder. Full stop. This is just true. Ganking is harder in 14.1. That is just an accurate statement. The brushes got moved back, the walls got moved around, like other than going into bot lane, ganking is harder. Additionally, with the Void Grubs existing, there's actually more epic monsters to go fight. So you have an even larger incentive to go kill camps in a jungle, if not just yours. And so this project is essentially saying that we know that slow, clear, gank-reliant junglers lost gank reliability, but still have a slow clear. And so the goal is to say, like, well, champions like Graves and Karthus, yeah, okay, Graves show up in a lane and like do some ganking once in a while, feel like a Renekton or something, but like he kind of just ate camps forever. He was already happy in, like, he's happy in a metagame where everyone's just eating camps because you can't gank anyway. Karthus especially is happy in a world where all you're doing is eating camps, you can't gank anyway. And so it is changing the numbers around to lower the percent DPS contribution that your pet gives your champion. I guess this is really just percent damage. and increasing the just flat DPS of the pet itself. This means that we are further normalizing every champion's jungle clear. This is now adding some per level scaling to the pet DPS. This is sort of similar to what happened in point 20, where the bonus armor, bonus MR ratios went up. This is now just adding a bunch more DPS as just flat damage per second. Mathematically, this seems, again, on average, pretty close to what it was before. In terms of like overall jungle clears, Graves and Karthus might lose some clear speed. And I very much expect that Warwick and Wukong are going to get better clear speeds as a result. Maybe not on your first camp, the number's going to be almost identical, but from then on, yeah, it's going to be different. And this is to say that, yeah, if your clears suck, well, you're kind of have to rely on clearing more. So changing numbers around. This is because specifically percent damage does not affect epic monsters, and of course this thing would otherwise. And so just adding a relatively low cap on epic monster damage that roughly mirrors live pet DPS on epic monsters. It's going to be a little bit lower for some champions for sure. It'll be a little bit higher for a couple, but ultimately just saying, yeah, your other camp's going to go down faster, so you should be okay. So that's it for live pod work. That's what we're doing here. Thanks for watching. And then, of course, season start is happening. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time here. Ultimately, I don't expect to spend a ton of time in this one, but there's a bunch of new items. The most updated classes are definitely mages and assassins. There's an update to the support quest, which I think is actually quite good as well. And so overall, it's just really cool. It's made a bunch of stuff to discover. And I mean, I expect them to do a bunch of retuning. We'll see if all the fighters start building assassin items because the assassin items do good and fighter items suck, or if it goes the other way around, or what. We'll just have to see. But of course, a lot going on here, so a lot to look at. There's terrain updates, which generally speaking makes playing immobile mages easier in mid lane, and it makes it much, much harder to gank top lane, and it no longer favors red team on bot lane because now you can gank red team and bot lane as well. Now this might make it too good. There's definitely some hypotheses internally that the terrain changes might make the game very, very bot gank focused. What's nice to kind of counteract that, though, is that there's some new objectives spawning. Instead of getting a Rift Herald at, 8 and then 14 or later minutes, there's Void Grubs at 5 minutes and then 4 minutes after you kill them, and then a Rift Herald that spawns at 14 minutes. And so there's 3 top set objectives now before Baron. So there's as much or more to kill top side than there is bottom side. And as long as Void Grubs are good and Rift Herald is good, which I think both are true, then you have a reason to play and path towards your top side and play towards those objectives. One thing that's true about League of Legends right now, actually, is that Rift Herald is stronger than Drake, at least the first Herald. But I think people in general really overvalue Drake. Because Herald is actually stronger. I remember back in like 2019 or something. This was back when Huni and DeMonte were on Clutch, and it was like, oh, this is like the only team in NA that's discovered you should play for Herald every game. And it was like, this was, they made Worlds, right? And they played okay at Worlds. 0-6, but they actually played like pretty reasonable games. And it was like, oh, this team actually plays for Herald. They're the only NA team that understands what this objective is. And they were just like 3 years ahead of the curve in this one, randomly. Just like a random memory I have from casting them. And numbers have been retuned over time, whatever, but like Herald is still the biggest win rate lift epic objective in the before Baron. It's like kind of not close from whatever can recall from numbers. So like Herald is actually the best objective. But because it spawns at 8 minutes, you have enough time to get level 5 and sometimes even level 6 on support. And you basically just like play towards bot lane and then you reset for the 8-minute Herald play. And like everyone kind of plays around that essentially. And so with Void Grub spawning at 5 minutes, and they're being relatively easy to take, and in fact, you can kill like only one. That's if you have Smite, you can kill like one Void Grub very, very easily, very, very quickly, and it costs you very little time. If like Scuttle happens to be there, you just like, I killed Scuttle, I guess I'll kill a Void Grub, and you can like leave if you want. You can do partial credit on this camp. That's really effective and it's really strong. And so I expect there to be a lot more sort of intentionality towards top side as long as Void Grub is actually a good objective. I also think that with new Rift Herald being a lot more fun objective as well, though it's 14 minutes, so like lanes have broken down by that point. But with Rift Herald being a really cool objective at 14 minutes, I think there's actually something really cool there as well. That there's a lot that's meaningful, that's strong to play towards. And what's nice about this as well is now we have a really strong systemic lever for influence of top side versus influence of the bottom side. That certainly it's easier to gank bot lane than it is to gank top lane, because you have almost guaranteed CC set up in your bot lane. Unless your like lane is Soraka versus Sona, you've got a Leona, Earth Rationalis, whatever, like start a combo chain for you, right, and have the gank actually happen. But even beyond that, the fact that now that there's monsters that probably feel as strong as Dragon is, even though they're already stronger right now on live, and the fact that the timer is the same, so that at 5 minutes you can Drake or you can Void Grub. It's like, oh, actually, I want to play towards top side, and because we play toward top side, we won our top lane skirmish, and now we just like grab some Void Grubs or whatever. And it doesn't take that much time. Again, your top laner can like help only kill one and then go leave, or kill two and then recall and TP or whatever else. Or I've had games where I'm winning, one of us is winning top lane by enough that just one of us goes down and just solos one Void Grub, goes back to lane. Instead of like spending a recall on it because there's just not that much to spend or whatever, it's like, actually, I got a wave crash. It's going to slow push to my turret. I'm going to kill a Void Grub. And it's like also active to play. So it's like, oh, winning top lane can literally give you an epic monster without your jungler helping. Like, even if they are ignoring you, top agency, right? So there's a lot that's actually really, really cool to like about this. I really, really like a lot of the inputs of how Void Grubs have actually worked out. The fact that they're early game, the fact that you can go piecemeal, that's actually a really, really cool thing that I really, really like. There's actually a lot that's really, really positive about this one. So I'm a really, really big fan. Like, my sort of personal favorite thing, weirdly, is Void Grubs existing, is the epic monster sort of minor rework. But other stuff is actually really, really cool as well. Really big fan. And then just want to call out that we plan to do a micro patch on the week of 14.1 coming out. So targeting for Thursday. So, come in Wednesday morning, we'll have early data, start planning it out by the end of Wednesday, probably have some changes in, and then, on Thursday, probably noon-ish our time, we probably have a micro patch out. So about 36 hours into the patch, we probably expect to micro patch. We'll see, maybe 48. I mean, again, I can't promise you the exact dates and times and whatnot, but we expect that there's going to be balance outliers, and that we are sort of pre-planning that we're going to put in some work for that. So, hey, by the way, and we also just all expect that there's going to be a ton of balance work to do when the patch comes out, because of course it is. So, new record, under 30 minutes. See you for the patch rundown, which will be multiple hours long probably for 14.1 itself. Thanks for watching. See everyone. Bye-bye.